Hey, welcome to today's episode of Pelicans Daily, brought to you by Fan Arch. It's your host, Chrissy Smith. Make sure that you like and subscribe right now before we get into all of today's topics, where we're actually going to start out with the NBA playoffs. And you're probably thinking, why the NBA playoffs? The Pelicans aren't in the NBA playoffs. That's because there's a lot of former NBA and former Pelicans players that are in the NBA playoffs this year. And so watching all of these games is like watching a blast from the past and just more reminders that the Pelicans could not get it together with these former players that the team had. Instead, we're watching all these exciting NBA games that are going on right now. I mean, you've got some really fantastic matchups for sure. With, of course, you've got the Thunder. That's going to be a blowout against the Suns there. But then with the Lakers and Rockets series, I mean, that's just fun to watch with Durant. But then the Nuggets Timberwolves series, that's a decent little series right there. I'm definitely liking that. But we're seeing some really interesting stuff with guys from the Pelicans previously who are now playing, and one of those series is going on right now with the Cavs against the Raptors. You got Brandon Ingram, who had a really good year, all-star player this year. In the playoffs, he has just been awful, and it's like, what happened to Brandon Ingram? Where's he gone? He's not playing like he did this season. But that series is now 2-0 with the third game going back to Toronto, not back to, but going to Toronto for the first time. And if the Raptors don't do something here, I mean, they're done for with the playoffs. But you see Brandon Ingram, and it's like, where is he shrinking off to in this postseason? What is it going to take for him to step up and be that guy that they're going to need in the postseason? Of course, the Cavs are a really good team, no doubt about that. But just from a Pelican standpoint, I'd like to see BI step up and be that superstar in the playoffs right now, and you're not seeing it. So hopefully as they go back home, there's going to be some hope for him there, but it's tough watching BI. That all Pelicans fans have a special place in their heart for him, just because he was such a true professional. He really was a New Orleans type of guy, and then he gets traded away, and good for him, he's in the playoffs. No shade. I mean, this is great to see he's able to do something that he was missing out on being with New Orleans, and now he's in Canada and he's in the playoffs. And I would rather be there and see our guys just struggling in the playoffs, but at least being there. So but he's not the only one that you're seeing in the playoffs. There's so many other players that played for the Pelicans that are also in the postseason this year for the NBA. But several of those players are matching up right now in the New York Knicks and Atlanta Hawks series. And those games have been pretty wild, with the most recent one coming from CJ McCollum with the Hawks, and what he was able to do in that game and shock the Knicks and pull out a game on the road. So that series is now 1-1, and it's going to Atlanta now. So it's going to be pretty feisty over there in Atlanta for the home game coming up. But that team is so interesting to watch because they have 3 starters on their team. 3 of their starters for the Hawks used to play for the New Orleans Pelicans. You got point guard CJ McCollum. We're going to talk about him a little bit more. You got your number 2 guy. You got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That's what we called him when he played in New Orleans. And then you've got Dyson Daniels, who was with the Pelicans, and now he's over here with the Hawks. The 2 other starters they've got are Jalen Johnson and Olenek, not obviously previous Pelicans players, but you got Ingram in the playoffs. You've got CJ McCollum in the playoffs. You've got Jose Alvarado in the playoffs. And then you've got Dyson Daniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And you look at all this and you just think, dang, like, this lineup is so legit. And why weren't we able to do this when we had these guys on our team mixed with, we had all of these guys, these 3 guys that start for the Hawks right now. We had all of them on the Pelicans with Zion and with Brandon Ingram. You had McCollum there as well. And you had Alvarado, who's playing for the Knicks now. You had all of that going on, and it's like we couldn't get it together. But I want everybody to remember something. You did not have a healthy team at all, ever. None of those guys were always all healthy and got to play together. You had Zion out for almost a whole season. Alvarado was hurt on and off the last couple of seasons. Poor Ingram. He was hurt and he missed almost the whole season. McCollum, he did a pretty good job. He had his little bumps and bruises. And then you had Dyson Daniels and Nah, and those two, they were able to play all the time, but those were second and third string guys when they played for us. So it's like, dang, just it's frustrating to see what the Hawks did against the Knicks the other night, knowing that we had over half of their starting lineup on the Pelicans team, and we weren't doing this, and we traded them all away to get, maybe what we need. But it is frustrating from a Pelicans fan standpoint to look at this and go, what are we doing here? What's happening in this organization that we get these good players, then we can't help them reach their full potential, then we trade them away, and now they're having all-star years, For example, Jose Alvarado goes to the Knicks, and that's the thing, happy for any of these guys that get traded away. Happy that their career hopefully will take off somewhere else and do what they've been hoping to have happen in New Orleans this whole time. Like, good for them, but sad for us because we keep just seeing right and left these guys leaving town and no playoff wins to show for it. It's just disappointment after disappointment. So the bigger question is this an organizational problem, or are these lineup issues, or you can't even say, well, these guys can't really play that great together, because you've literally got two role players for the Pelicans and one starter with CJ McCollum, who are 3 of the 5 starting players for the Hawks. And that game was really interesting because, of course, the backstory is that the Hawks traded Trae Young to the Wizards earlier in the year. And so when the game started in New York, the crowd is chanting, expletive Trae Young. And by the end of it, they were yelling expletive CJ McCollum because of the night he had. He scored 35 points or 32 points against the Knicks that night. And he scored 6 of their last 8 points in the fourth quarter to win the game. The Hawks were down 12 points going into the fourth quarter, and they lost that game. They stunned the crowd. Interestingly enough, watching that game was CJ McCollum and Jose Alvarado. Those two were going back and forth at each other the whole entire game. Now, those two have played basketball together for the Pelicans since the 2022 season. So they've played several years together. Alvarado, I feel like CJ McCollum is always a very just nice, genuine guy. He's like a dad, and he's just a overall nice guy. You don't really see him getting too fired up. We didn't really see that from him with the Pelicans. And we all know Jose Alvarado has got a feistiness to him. He's perfect to be in New York. That's where he's from. It's a great place for him. And those two were going at it, and they went at it so much at one point that the refs called a double tech on them because of how much they were just jarring back and forth with each other. I mean, they went nose to nose at one point. I mean, you thought a brawl was going to break out. And that, to me, shows the passion with both of those guys and how much it means to them to be in this playoff position now. To be here in the postseason where every single game, every single point, every single minute out there matters, and neither of them wants to go home. And it is interesting to see former players and teammates who are friends with each other go like that in a game. But that's what happens when you get on the court. When you get on the court, relationships end. There's no friendships anymore. It's my team against your team, and you're going to be 100% for your team, and vice versa. That's how it's going to go. And so you saw that from those two last night, and it made me happy to see these two guys almost getting into it, because they are getting a taste of the playoffs, and that is such a sweet, sweet taste to have. So good for them. This is going to be an interesting series the rest of the way. But I mean, when I say the Knicks fans and team were completely stunned by what happened last night, in game 2, it was that's what NBA playoff basketball is all about. And I'm glad that these guys are getting to experience it. I'm glad Dyson Daniels and Nikhil's getting to experience this, because this kind of experience does make you a better player. Just overall, having the experience of what the postseason is like and how intense it is, and that this is what you play 82 games for. It's a big deal that they've gotten to this point. So good for them. I hope the Raptors are able to turn it around. I mean, there can only be one winner overall, but I'm happy to see these guys out there. And then hopefully it is motivating for our local guys with the Pelicans that I need to experience this. This is what it's all about, being in the league. Of course, you got the fame and the money that comes with it all, but if you really love the game, this is what you're playing for. You're trying to play more than 82 games a season. 82 is not enough for you anymore. You need more games, because that means you've made it to around some elite company, and that's what we want to see for the Pelicans next year. So it'll be fun watching the rest of these playoffs and watching these former Pelicans guys and see kind of what happens, but going into more of the off season, we're seeing some other kind of changes and things coming from a coaching standpoint around the league. And so most recently, some changes have happened. And one of those is that Billy Donovan has stepped down as the Bulls head coach. And that was not something a lot of people were expecting to see. And so it is interesting. And could he become someone that ends up interviewing with the Pelicans here? And local reporter Rob Walker, he actually laid out some information in that the Pelicans senior VP of basketball operations, who's Troy Weaver, and Billy Donovan, who just walked away from the Bulls, they actually overlapped when those two were in Oklahoma City. So that's something to keep an eye on. It was in 2008 that Weaver named OKC's assistant. He was named the GM of OKC. In 2010, Weaver was promoted to the VP, the assistant GM. Then in 2015, the Thunder hired Billy Donovan as their coach. And then in June 2020, Weaver was named the Pistons GM. That same year, Donovan's contract was not renewed in OKC, and that's when he headed over to the Bulls. So those two do have some overlapping time, and it will, I'm really curious to see, does this turn into a more of a relationship that's going on there, and is that kind of what's going on? Because as of recently, obviously Billy Donovan wasn't even talked in the mix of anything going on when it comes to the hiring. And then other rumors that are going around is, will Steve Kerr be back as the Warriors head coach? And if he doesn't, then now you have another opening in the NBA for potential coaching spots that have to be filled. So right now, you've got several that you're looking at, and the Pelicans are in that mix. So it's like, who's going to get the best out of all of that? One name that I am hearing really around just all over the place is Jamal Malcolm Mosley. And so he obviously played basketball in the NBA, and he was a coach for the Orlando Magic, and he's not now. So he is someone that people are talking about who he could potentially fill in the role for the New Orleans Pelicans job. A lot of people are still saying there's just a ton of hype around James Borrego, but as some of these other names are popping up here and there, I'm not so sure that Borrego is really the front runner for the job anymore. But I definitely think that the Pelicans are going to look at every option that they can and probably get some input from their own guys on what do you think and who would you like to have here for next season? Because unless a trade happens with Herb, Zion is not leaving. He will be part of the Pelicans next year. Same thing with Trey Murphy. And then your two rookies that you've got right now with Queen and Fears. Now, some movement could take place with Herb Jones, could take place with DeJounte Murray, Jordan Poole. So any of those pieces are more of up in the air kind of guys, and they could end up being trade pieces in this offseason coming up. But obviously getting the head coach job is really going to be very, very important. Getting it right is going to be very important for the Pelicans. And you're seeing certain pieces shake out in the NBA when it comes to coaching moves. So it's going to be interesting as the offseason keeps going on. Obviously, a lot will really start to fall into place once the NBA playoffs are completely over. But like I always say at the end of every single Pelicans Daily episode, we will be here every single day reporting on the latest and what's going on, summarizing it all for you. So if you don't have all day to scroll through X and figure out what's up with Pelicans news, We will have it for you every day in about 15 minutes, all wrapped together in a nice bow. Make sure you go on X and you follow me at Sports Chrissy. You can DM me questions and we'll get to them as quickly as we can here on the show. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Have a good day.